This is how I feel sometimes when managing your money. And don't worry, it's fake. Sorry, it's probably a bit more dramatic than you're used to, but there's actually a super easy rule to follow that will make sure this doesn't happen and that you'll be financially secure for the future. And listen, I get it. Finance is hard, and the gurus love to overcomplicate things with fancy jargons to try and sound smart, and then you feel dumb because you have no idea what they're saying. Trust me, I've been there.
What the heck is he talking about?
So let's make everything easy to get you on the right path to financial freedom. I bet you tree fitty that you didn't know that around 35% of people have no money saved up for retirement at all. So if that's you, just know that you're not alone. But it's also, unfortunately, it is kind of a really big deal because Social Security is expected to end even sooner than originally expected. So if you don't want to be broke at 60 years old and only be able to afford a regular hamburger instead of a cheeseburger, then keep on watching. There's a dirty little secret about saving for financial freedom. Naughty, naughty. And it's that it's a bunch of guesswork. Sure, there's stuff like the 4% rule, but it's hard to accurately forecast with confidence how much you actually need because unless you have Mr. Magic Lamp over there, you simply can't tell the future. You don't know what your investment returns will be. You don't know how bad inflation will get. You don't even know what your future spending habits will be. And all these variables and more are critical to accurately calculating your financial freedom number. But there is a starter strategy that you can use today, like as soon as you're done watching this video. When we think about traditional money management, we think of massive, exhausting Excel spreadsheets with numbers, pie charts, bar graphs, just a whole bunch of confusing mess of text and numbers. But it doesn't have to be that way. A much easier and more effective method is the 50-30-20 rule, which has gotten really popular because of how simple it is. You can think of it as the ABCs for budgeting, and just like all nursery rhymes, there are actually some really bad things that you need to know. Like, did you know that the Jack and Jill nursery rhyme, it's actually about decapitation? But whatever, we'll get into that a bit later. Let's break down 50-30-20. Step 1, to start, you want to take your after-tax income or your take-home pay, and we'll say it's $1,000, and we'll split it into 3 separate buckets: your needs, your wants, and your financial goals. 50% or 500 of it goes into your needs bucket, 30% or 300 goes into your wants, and 20% or 200 goes into your financial goals bucket. Step 2, the needs bucket is basically everything that you need to survive. Not like Squid Game surviving, but like, you know, the basics: food, housing, electricity, transportation, and the minimum payments that's required for your debt. Now, if you're looking over your expenses right now and you're pounding on the table because you're already over the 50%, first, apologize to the table because it did nothing wrong.
I'm sorry, can you please forgive me?
Second, don't panic. I got you covered later on. Step 3, for the wants bucket, you might think, whoa, 30%? That's a lot of money. But we're not talking about getting a new iPhone every year once it's released, or treating yourself to a triple cheeseburger at McDonald's. That, my friends, is only for special occasions. When I say want, I'm talking about things that you can potentially not buy, but your life would be just a bit harder without it. Like super fast internet, Netflix, traveling, iced coffee, dinners. Now, sometimes it may be hard to distinguish between needs and wants, but the rule of thumb is ask yourself, can you live without it? And if you can, then it's most likely a want. And if you're not entirely sure, comment below what you had in mind and I'll let you know. Step 4, the financial goals bucket is a broad term that encompasses emergency funds, investing, paying off extra debt, etc. Okay, let's pause here and rewind, because remember when I said minimum debt payments go into needs? That's true because minimum payments are kind of mandatory and we don't want to get penalized for not paying it off. But anything extra payments on top of the mortgage or the credit card to clear your debt faster goes into this bucket. Now, the 50-30-20 rule is a fantastic way to manage your money for people who are just starting out because of how simple it is. But if you're worried because you don't have enough money to allocate into these specific 3 categories, don't worry, that's what we're trying to fix. Figure out where your money is going every month and adjust your expenses accordingly. But even then, this rule might not work for you because it does have 2 serious flaws that might actually harm you financially.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. But before we get into that, I do want to thank our friends over at Wealthfront for sponsoring this video. If you're wondering what to do with some of the money in the financial goals bucket and you want to start investing your extra cash, but you don't want to follow the market every day because, well, it's too time consuming, then you should check out Wealthfront. Wealthfront is an automated investing platform that uses its smart software to create a diversified portfolio designed to grow your money over the long term, meaning you can just sit back, relax, and turn that like button into a beautiful purple. Now, what's cool about Wealthfront is that it tries to get to know the real you. You know, the one that you don't share with anyone else. Then they automatically start investing for you. Wealthfront will ask you questions to assess your risk tolerance, so their smart little computers know how to customize your ideal portfolio. Plus, they'll handle all the rebalancing for you too. To open up a Wealthfront account, you do need a minimum of $500, a few minutes of your time, and they'll take care of the rest. You'll also have a 0.25% annual advisory fee of your assets. And if at this point you're thinking, ugh, I have to pay to use it, well, fear not, because with my special link in the description below, you'll get your first $5,000 managed for free for life. Plus, Wealthfront offers this cool thing called tax loss harvesting, where they say 96% of their taxable investment account clients using the classic recommended portfolio have their advisory fees fully covered. And tax loss harvesting is just a fancy way of saying they'll sell off the investments that dropped in value and replace them with similar investments, letting you take a tax loss and automatically reinvest elsewhere so that your overall portfolio stays the same. If you're looking for an easy way to get started with investing, sign up for Wealthfront with my link in the description down below.
Okay, so the two serious flaws that's almost as bad as the evil origins of some nursery rhymes like Ring Around the Rosie, trust me, Google it. The first serious flaw happens when you're making a boatload of money, right? First world problems. Then probably don't follow this rule, because keeping these proportions might be unnecessary for you. Like if you're making $200,000 a year after taxes, do you really need to spend $100,000 every year on your needs bucket? Highly, highly doubt it. And if you force yourself into this framework, it'll actually be harmful for you because you'll feel compelled to spend more than you actually need to. Or if you're living in a super high cost of living area like New York City or San Francisco, then this framework probably won't work for you either, because rent alone is gonna cost an arm and a leg. And then you're gonna unnecessarily stress that you're above the threshold. Now let me tell you something that you probably didn't know. Personal finance is personal for a reason. And while the 50-30-20 budgeting rule may be a good rule of thumb for many who are starting their journey, it doesn't work for everyone for their entire lives. You need to be able to tweak it so that it works for your life. If you have really high loans because of student debt, then maybe a 60-10-30 might be better. Or if you're super frugal, then maybe a 30-10-60. Okay, pause. Before I share my personal secret budgeting management rule that I personally use, I want to clarify, regardless of what rule or budget you end up using, the truth is that it doesn't really matter. What really matters is this. The whole point of establishing these rules and systems in place, in my eyes at least, is to shift your mindset on how you think about money. Before I got so serious with financial freedom, I was thinking the same way the average person thinks. I was programmed with this mentality that I would work until I retire or die, whichever came first. That I was destined to work 60 to 80 hours every single week, just because that's what society says we have to live to work. But one day, as I was mindlessly scrolling through Reddit, I came across this term called financial freedom. And I had a light bulb moment. And I realized that I could change the path before me. I could, if I wanted to, flip the whole script around. Instead of only me working for my money, I could make my money work for me. And eventually have the freedom to work when and where I wanted to work, and be able to define what work actually meant for me. And so that convinced me to start taking personal finance more seriously. And so far it's been great. Sure, there were a lot of struggles. I missed out on some parties, some adventures, so I could aggressively save money. But now I can honestly say that I've never been happier with my life and my relationship with work. And listen, I get it. The average net worth for millennials is negative until their 30s because they're under a massive amount of student debt. So you're probably thinking, what's the point if you save $200 today? How is that going to help? And the truth is, it's not. It's not going to help much right now. And I think this is the mentality that causes people to not want to start saving earlier. They don't see the advantages in the short term because there are none. The trick is to shift your way of thinking and focus on the long term, on the horizon, 20, 30, 40 years away or more, where that money that you're saving now has time to grow. And I'll cover how to grow your money in a future video, so make sure you turn that like button into a beautiful black and comment below what is your financial goal. Don't look at money as a way to just buy physical things. Start looking at money instead as a way to buy freedom and time. I realized years and years ago that the 50-30-20 budget wasn't a good fit for me personally because I hated how structured and defined it was. Sometimes things in life just don't fit perfectly. Like a gym membership, right? Is that a want or a need when it comes to your health? When I was working at a supermarket, it didn't make much sense because I wasn't getting paid much. So instead of using strict proportional buckets, I use this thing I call guideline automation. Now, to be transparent, setting guideline automation up does take a bit more work to get started, but it saves so much more time and headache in the long run. Guideline automation makes it so that I don't have to worry about money and I don't need to constantly track if everything is going according to plan. And here's how my money rule works. Step 1, my paychecks are deposited into my checking account. Step 2, each month I automatically move the money into one of two accounts that's automatically linked to the same bank, called spending, and one is called saving. My spending account includes my fixed monthly bills, typical living expenses like groceries, gas, etc. And by knowing how much that I typically spend in a month based on historical averages, I can set spending targets for other stuff like restaurants, entertainment, travel, and shopping. Step 3, at the end of the month, I automatically know what I didn't use up and I can move the leftover into my savings account. And the money from my savings can either be part of my emergency fund or go into my investment accounts. I also use a free app to see my spending categories and whether or not I'm on track to hit my financial goals. If you want to know what that free app is, send me a DM on Instagram with the words apple bottom jeans and I'll let you know. Guideline automation works for me, mainly because of the psychological effect of being able to simplify my finances even more. It reduces my decision fatigue and I don't feel like saving money is an additional step in my life that I need to do, if that makes sense. It just becomes something that's done automatically in the background. And as long as I stick within the spending limit that I have in my spending account, and I know that I don't need to use anything from my savings account, then I'm doing well. Now again, this strategy might not work for you. It does require more willpower and living a generally more frugal lifestyle. But once you got that down, then it becomes super easy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. My budgeting system has flaws, and I'm not a robot that always saves money and never buys things. But I'm trying harder to get better every day to reach financial freedom. And that's really the idea of this channel. I'm not gonna sit here and put on a facade and pretend that I'm a brilliant personal finance guy. I'm driving a Lambo, I live in a mansion. No, I'm just like you. We're all working together through the struggles so we can become better with our money. But back to the point, the 50-30-20 budget framework rule. It's not a bad starting point, but it just might not work for you. The good thing is that you can tweak it until it fits nicely into your personal finance goals. So go through trial and errors and find something that works. But my biggest advice is don't get lost in the numbers or overanalyze this and that. It's better to start imperfectly than just keep thinking about how to start perfectly. But if you really want to reach financial freedom, there's a lot more than just a simple budgeting rule. There's actually a whole nother step, and this is actually the perfect video for us on how to manage your money like the 1%. The secrets that the wealthy use to build their wealth and beyond.